Ambassador Mansour, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, reports from Israel today that Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, has told hostage families that with or without a deal with Hamas, there will be a move on Rafah. What is your reaction to that?
That would be catastrophic, and we should, as an international community, by all means, avoid this catastrophe in Rafah. What we need is a ceasefire. We need to save lives, not to kill more Palestinians.
The Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has said that the United States is the only country that can stop Israel from attacking Rafah. But as you've seen, no amount of, protest and dissuasion by the United States seems to be working at all. Do you actually believe that the United States has any power to affect this on the ground?
I believe that it has power to affect things on the ground. And we thought that the statement of Secretary of State Blinken in Saudi Arabia, that the United States is still of the opinion that Israel should not storm Rafah and attack it. What we need is a ceasefire, not to cave in to the selfish desire of Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is willing to destroy Palestine and Israel altogether for the political survival of himself.
Have you seen or heard or been told of any efforts to protect the civilians in Rafah? Like so many civilians have moved under Israeli orders to the south, to Rafah, and now they are a potential target. Do you know of any progress in any efforts to move them out of the way?
The way to protect the 1.4 million Palestinians who have been told to move to the south and they are around Rafah is not to allow the storming of Rafah. This is the only way to save this large civilian population in Rafah and around Rafah.
Are you concerned that if it does come to pass, that there is a storming of Rafah, as you put it, that again there will be this idea of potentially forcing the Palestinians across the border into Egypt? You remember that was a fear at the very beginning, and the Egyptians said no, and from the West Bank side, the Jordanians said no. What is your concern now? Could that happen?
We are still extremely concerned as Palestinians, as Palestinian leadership, also as Egyptians and as Arabs. We lived one Nakba in 1948. We do not want to live another Nakba if 1 or 2 million Palestinians to be forced to be pushed into the Sinai, into Egypt. That would be catastrophic. That would be a second Nakba for us, and that could potentially harm the agreement between Israel and Egypt.
Do you think if they were pushed out, they would be allowed back?
If they're pushed out, they will not be allowed back, because the plans of this extreme Israeli government is to depopulate Gaza, to destroy UNRWA, and then move to the West Bank to push hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from the West Bank in the direction of Egypt, so that they can have massive demographic transformation in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, which are the intentions of the extremists in the Israeli government.
Could I just clarify? You mean push them out of the occupied West Bank into Jordan or Egypt?
Yes,
into Jordan. OK. Can you tell me what's happening there now? Because there are many, many reports of territory and farms and lands of the Palestinian inhabitants, being overrun, being taken, property being taken, and some attempts to move Palestinians out of their villages. What is the situation on the West Bank?
The heart of the extremist in the Israeli government is based in the settler illegal campaign in the West Bank, which they want to depopulate the West Bank from the Palestinian Arabs so that what they call Judea and Samaria to be exclusively for the Jewish population in that area. Mm-hmm. And all of the annexation that you see, the expansions of settlements, the terrorisms of settlers against the villagers, Palestinian villagers in the West Bank, all of that is for the purpose of creating fear so that the Palestinians either to flee or to be pushed back, pushed into the direction of Egypt. And
Egypt or Jordan? You keep saying Egypt. Do you mean Jordan?
No, sorry, Jordan.
Yeah, okay,
sorry, Jordan.
Okay. So let me talk to you about this then, because there are many polls that show quite a lot of disaffection amongst Palestinians for the Palestinian Authority, and increasingly we're seeing stories even from Gaza, even under the bombardments and the military offensive there, disaffection amongst some Palestinians who've been asked with Hamas for, you know, their past, their lack of governance, the inability to have brought them safety, security, economy, and now because of what they're enduring right now. But there's also a huge amount of disaffection with you, as I said, with the Palestinian Authority. The latest poll, the Shikaki poll in March, you know, shows how the Fatah party's support has really plummeted. And many people really believe that the Palestinian Authority also needs to completely, I don't know whether it can reform, but it really has not delivered. So given all of that, what is the plan for the day after?
Well, let me just say that the Palestinian people have been going through so much under this ruthless occupation and the many wars conducted against our people, particularly in the Gaza Strip, including this last vicious war, a war of genocide against our people in the Gaza Strip. So therefore, the Palestinian people have a good reasons for being angry and frustrated with everyone, including the international community, including their own situations. So one can understand that. But what we need is we need to stop this war, to start giving the Palestinian people hope, and hope can come if we can find ways to put an end to this occupation, to allow the Palestinian people to exercise self-determination, including independence of their own state, and to govern themselves without the evils of occupation. If we have a path in that direction, then the Palestinian people will elect the leaders that they wish, and then they will enter into a different era of their lives than the miserable era of living under occupation.
And you've seen pro-Palestinian protests spreading across US campuses, some of them in Europe as well. You must, A, be pleased with that, but I obviously have to ask you about the criticism, and that is some people holding up Hamas slogans and signs. And I just wonder, you know, what would you say to those people? Does that actually help your cause? Do you think you would tell them to take down those signs?
We cannot tell them, you know, what to do, but I am thrilled, we are thrilled that there is this massive movement in U.S. campuses calling for a ceasefire, immediate ceasefire and saving lives, and calling for the Palestinian people to exercise self-determination. To see the hundreds of Palestinian flags flown in all these campuses is so thrilling. This is a sense of justice for the Palestinians. And when you see hundreds of millions in the streets in all corners of the globe saying immediate ceasefire, save the lives of the Palestinian people, I hope leaders everywhere, including in Washington, D.C., to listen to these powerful messages and to do everything possible to stop the war and the onslaught and the aggression against our people in the Gaza Strip, and to begin the process of the day after.